Thank you for tuning into the Zell Show. When I tell you I am oh so determined, oh so determined to have the best looking series. I'm talking about, God, I love having my own channel. I also love how having this channel challenges me to be myself, to also find the best, to also take what I'm noticing from like other influencers. Like for instance, when I work with other influencers, I'm talking about there's whole studios set up. Like this is what they do, and they are living well off of like investing in the equipment and the lighting, and some people have better productions than a television studio, and I want to get to that point. So I have been like for instance, like, so YouTube is now like 4K videos, where whereas it used to be like, oh, just make your stuff in HD. Now it needs to be like 4K. Next week it's gonna be 8K, whatever it is. I just realized that my phone could do like actually do like 4K, because I was going to get me another phone, earlier today, and then it was like, oh, we can't see the specials. Come back another time because they was about to close. So when I left there, I was like, wait a minute, I know I've saw 4K on my phone before, but it was like I have to turn it, like, how like you're recording, like, and I can see the people out there, so that's how I have to turn my phone. But let me just tell you, I'm determined no matter which way I gotta turn this phone, I want to have the best looking videos and sound, because I have the Lord's message. And I have been like, when I walked down, like it was like a mile walk to the phone store, and of course I came home, took the dogs, came home, and the dogs had pooed all in the crate, so of course I had to handle that debacle immediately. And I actually appreciate when there is like an accident like that, because then I have to like deep clean. I gotta clean the dogs, I gotta clean the floor, I gotta clean the crate. And so now when I walked in from the phone store, it smelled so good because I done mopped everything, cleaned everything, tea tree oil, eucalyptus, Lysol, Comet. I'm talking about, the works. And I just was like, okay, I'm getting in the shower, and I am about to tell you about today's, revelation. The Holy Spirit talks to us via revelation, the next thing we need to do. And today I was listening to Oprah on the walk, and Oprah was like, you be having like a whole lot of stuff to do, but don't worry about, and sometimes you feel overwhelmed, but like, don't worry about all of the things, just worry about the next step. So for me today, I went to church. All shucks, just saw, occasionally I see some like ants around here, and then I'll see them coming from this one place, and then I know, oh, okay, it must be ants up in here. So anyway, so today I was in church, and this Friday, let me backtrack. So this Friday I had a show at this place, that was like a dive bar, let me make sure it didn't move. It was like a dive bar. And my friends who book me in comedy all the time was like, I didn't even know you had a band. We're looking for a band on this date after the show. Did you want the date? So I just like quickly said yes. And then when I thought about the place, I was like, like, I just don't want to be performing in no dive bar, but I don't mind going in there for like stand up, because sometimes you need to like work out material, and you work it out wherever somebody has a show. But like when you think about like your band or whatever, so I wrestled with that. But I ultimately decided to do the gig because I was like, I want to keep my word. Like, these are my friends, they want to see me rock out with the band. Then I was, I always have to pay the band, so I was worried about the budget. And I charged this like, I charged $50 for the ticket, because I'm like, I want to make sure that I have the people in, like, I want to have make sure that I have the budget, and I don't want to have to worry about like, oh, we two people short for the budget. So I charge like all of this, I charge $50 for the ticket so I can worry about less people. Like, I just need to make these amount of ticket sales so that I can make sure I have the band. So anyway, so we get to the gig. We wind up having so much fun. I wanted to like bring some food, and there was like a Popeyes right next door, so I brought some Popeyes in there, and then people was hungry. But I noticed like the drummer, who is pretty much in a pretty melancholy mood all the time, I noticed he was just like not himself. So I remember talking to my auntie, and my auntie is like, look, not my auntie is like, look, but I'm telling her, I'm like, I come from this family, like, well, not I come from this family, but like my grandfather on my father's side, he treated my grandma horribly, like, just no love to the end. It was like, they were light-skinned Creole people, and it was like, you married this like dark-skinned woman, and the family, Creole people wanted you to be this, high yellow, so they treated her like she was like less than. And I remember hearing stories about this, and then I thought about like the men and the relationship that I've been in, and some of them have been like just that same story, just mean, just people that just take it out on you, and I'm just like generally like a happy person. So when I saw how the drummer was acting, I was just like, nah, like, I'm done with this kind of man that like has an attitude for no reason. You gotta figure it out if you ain't walking on eggshells. So I remember thinking at the gig, like, I went into the bathroom and I was like, Holy Spirit, what is this? Like, what I'm saying? Because I see this in a drummer all the time. This is the first drummer. And I could hear the Holy Spirit clearly being like, don't take it personal. Like, you go out here and you represent me and you have a good time. And I'm talking about, from that conversation with the Holy Spirit, I had the time of my life at that gig. And I was talking to my auntie on the phone afterwards about it, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm done trying to figure out that mean, this gorgeous guy, because that's what happens with me. I date this gorgeous guy, then all of a sudden you got all these feelings, and then I got to figure you out, and then I'm internalizing it when they ain't got nothing to do with me. So I put all of that on him, and then I went to church today. See, that's why I have to have a church that I go into weekly. I go to church online because I love how these wealth pastors are focused on your identity in the Lord. That's the difference between the wealth pastor and the regular pastor. The wealth pastor is focused on who you are in the Lord and making sure that you know who you are so that you can acquire that the wealth the Lord has stored up for you. So I listen to those motivational messages all day long, along with Oprah, Steve Harvey, whatever. But then I go to this other church. I like going into the building because, you're dealing with life issues. And I found a really good church where this guy, I'm talking about, anytime I'm going through something, the Lord will send the message right on through. And I could hear the Holy Spirit clearly saying, okay, you're going to communicate, And I definitely called the drummer, and he was having the same battle that I was having. Feeling like we're above this stage in our careers. Like, what are we doing at this kind of place? And I was telling him that, I didn't want to do it either. And I decided to keep my word. And I was like, you just never know who may be in there where you get booked on these other, gigs or whatever, because somebody's already inquired. And then he shed his light on it, which was like, look, we can be intentional about, we don't have to do this in hopes that somebody might see. We can be intentional and book ourselves at this gig because we are the talent. We have the talent. So, we went back and forth, because he hated the fact that I had Popeye's chicken passing around because, he feels like his band is beyond this stage, and I respect it. I appreciated him for what he offered to the gig, what he offered to the music and everything, but what I enjoyed the most is that people were hungry, and I thought to bring Popeyes, and then I was hungry after the show, and like the keyboard player wanted some, the people at the bar wanted some. These people paid $50 and came to the show hungry, a bar with no food, and then here's some random chicken that just pops up, and then everybody goes to grab some. I'm so happy that I bust that move. I'm also so happy, I was telling him, he was like, well, I appreciate, your love for the Lord because I have that same love. And I was just telling him how the Lord will use us to minister to that one person that may be there to see our light shining. So I was so happy to have communicated and not thought anything because, let me just tell you, that's why I'm so glad that I am also not in a relationship, because I feel like there's so many things that the Lord had to, like, so many layers the Lord had to shed, like communicating these feelings. Like, previously I would have stored these up, and man, oh man, would I have built a story around the feelings that I have stored up, as opposed to being like, hey, let me call you and see what's up, because that's, you didn't feel like yourself, and I want to make sure that we're good, and people have done that with me. I can remember that me and this guy, like, fell out, not this, like, a guy I work with, and I was like not responding to his messages, and he saw that I was performing somewhere and came to a show and was like, yo, I need to talk to you face to face to make sure we're good. And I'm like, I see, it's things like that stick around. So anyway, so the moral to the story of all of this was, we ended our conversation and was glad to have communicated. I was glad to see his perspective on it, and he was glad to, well, I don't know if he was glad to see mine, but I appreciated him expressing that, he was, he did follow through with the gig, and that we are past it, and he does appreciate performing with me because of my love for the Lord. And I feel so good that I was thinking, I was turning my nose up too. Like, I don't ever have to do these, these kind of places. But ultimately, when the Lord uses me, he is going to use me in my humble state. Jesus, when I think about Jesus, how when he was traveling about, finding, the whores and pimps, well, I can't say pimps, but like tax collectors and, people that needed him, the people that were living right did not need him as much as the people that were, in these streets having the trouble and, got a chance to become more faithful through his works. And, I just thought about, the Lord using me in that venue because it was just so much fun. I spreaded the Lord's word, and, I know that my light was shining, and I'm just so happy that, I ultimately decided to keep my word, because these were people who were so glad to see me come in there, and the show was out of sight. So, guys, I can't thank you enough for tuning into the Dell Show. Make sure you comment below any situations you might be going through, things you overcame. And if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and come back often to the Show. All right, I gotta get my salmon going, and I hope this thing ain't taking